Good evening.
Hey Lynn, how are you?
Let me get on the screen. Yeah, there we go. Let me just check the lighting here. Nancy, how are you?
I'm fine, Lynn. How are you?
I'm good. I get to see you tonight and tomorrow night. What fun is that?
On Zoom. That's not as fun as real.
It is not, is it? But at least we can see each other's faces. This is what
Right.
I keep saying to myself. There's a benefit here. Hi, Julie.
I agree. Hi, Lynn. Hi, C.
And Austin is here. I am so glad. Let's see, we've got a bunch of people coming, so what's the temperature in your living room right now?
I keep it at about 60 or 62.
I know, it's just perfect. That's why you're wearing a shawl as I am, I bet.
I have my little sweatshirt on. I can put my hood on if it gets really cold.
Something like that.
A big old drafty house. I don't like to keep the heat up because it just goes out the window.
Exactly. Oh, good, there's Mickey.
Hi,
Hi, Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
think
Various folks dialing in via Paytech. Michelle, Mickey, Diane, always Diane. How are you?
Great, thanks. Mouthful, sorry.
It's all right. You have to eat and drink while this is going on too. It's great, great benefits. Okay, one more minute to prime time, and we'll see who all comes in here. Well, I would like to see some more committee members here. Yeah, it's always, am I going to be calling people? Let me see. What I offer is the Nahant time, the Nahant due time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Anyone?
At least 5.
At least 5. Okay, that's what I want to hear, a positive suggestion. I do want to make sure that Paul is here.
Michelle, I want to thank you for all your positive quotes that you post on Facebook.
Oh, thanks.
I love them.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm starting to send email reminders or text reminders out to our committee. So let me just sort of continue to do that while you chat amongst yourselves. Okay, more coming.
Hi, this is Ellen.
Oh, good, Ellen.
Goldberg.
Great to see you. Will we see you in
How are
person?
you? Yep, I'll be there in a second. Just
Come on, give us your
just
face.
logging in.
Okay. Let me see. Who else are we missing? Mariana. Oh, good. There you are, Ellen.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah, there you are. And there's Paul. So from the committee's ranks, I think I'm missing Mariana and Ellen Steves. Just let me finish one more text to catch them all in. Otherwise, I think we've got a quorum. And this is a community meeting. I mean, it's a public meeting, but it's designed to sort of elicit dialogue with the community at large. Okay, I've just sent out text messages to remind folks about that. So I will officially, oh, there's Mariana, perfect. Oh, good. So I will officially start the meeting with the dramatic reading of what it means to have a virtual meeting. And then we'll move on to introductions. So I'm Lynn Spencer. I'm chairman of Community Preservation Committee in Nahant, and I'm going to read from the governor's order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Nahant Community Preservation Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. This is a reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so by the link that has been provided to you. And I will monitor questions that appear in the chat bars. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'd like to introduce members of the Community Preservation Committee, starting with Austin Antrim at the head of the list. Austin, would you mind just introducing yourself, your link to the committee, and your duration on this committee?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Austin Antrim. I am an at-large member on the committee. Sorry, and this will be my second year, so very new to this.
Okay, great. And since we're introducing new members, alphabetically, Nancy, you would be next.
Hi, I'm Nancy Cantelmo. This is my first meeting. I am representing the Open Space and Recreation Committee on the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Nancy. Very glad to have you with us. Ellen Goldberg.
Hi, I'm Ellen Goldberg. I am a member at large. I found out about the Community Preservation Committee through my work on the Green Communities Committee. I think this is my third year.
Mickey.
Hi, Mickey Long, representing Nahant Housing Authority. Oh, I think this is my 5th or 6th year.
And Mariana?
I'm Mariana Maximovich. I'm a member of the planning board, and I'm representing a planning board on this preservation committee. And I'm happy to be a member of Lynn's team. Thank you,
And
Lynn.
Paul? Paul?
Minute. Oh, okay, good. Paul Spurn, and I'm an at-large member appointed by the board of by the Nahant board, and I've been here at least 8 years, maybe more.
And I'm Lynn Spencer. I mentioned that I'm the chair. I represent I'm a designee of the Nahant Historical Commission, and I have been on this board since the inception of community preservation in the town of Nahant. So that goes back to when it was voted in 2004 and first went into effect in 2005. So I will next proceed with a general introduction of community preservation and in its history and its impact in Nahant. This is a meeting that really is designed to elicit questions and comments from the community, to engage with people who may be contemplating making grant applications. We have just begun the fiscal year 2022 grant application cycle. A little bit of history on community preservation and a perspective on last year's work. So community preservation is designed to create a funding mechanism based on a surcharge of real estate taxes and a match with matching by the state. So for example, in Nahant, we passed a real estate tax surcharge of 3%. There's the first $100,000 of your tax base is exempted, and then the 3% is applied on top of the real estate tax surcharge. Our history in the early years, the surcharge was matched by 100% by the state. About 4 years into the program, and Nahant was an early participant in the program. About 4 years into the program, the state started to drop back the matches on a proportional basis. The source of the state match is in fact based on registry of deeds transactions. And in recent years, the state has actually added to the budget capability in order to meet the increasingly emerging interest of communities and towns or cities and towns for joining this program. At this point, of the 351 towns and cities in the state, approximately 170 of them are participants in the community preservation program. On average, in the town of Nahant, we have received about 65% match. Although in some years it's been as low as 45%, and as I said, in other years at 100%. Interestingly enough, for fiscal year 2021, which by the way, our recommendations did not get reviewed at the September town meeting for various logistical and administrative reasons. But in 2021, we had predicted that we would generate $220,000 in this real estate tax surcharge with $110,000 match. But in fact, the state provided, and we were estimating about 50% match. In fact, the state came through at 69.4% in match. So that brought in over $175,000 to the town of Nahant, which then was matching the town's appropriation, which had also, the surcharge, which had also grown. It had grown from $220,000 to $250,000. So there was approximately, $96,000 more that came into our fund, into this fiscal year 2021 funds, about a 30% increase over what we had predicted. So committee members and public, this is important because the money doesn't go away. It gets sequestered in accounts that are managed by our town treasurer. We have for years been blessed, truly blessed by the services, dedication of Debbie Waters. She has retired and we now have a new treasurer, Allison Nieto. And we will all look forward to working closely with her on this fund. So we've got good news to share about the capabilities of community preservation to do meaningful work in the town of Nahant. So let's ask ourselves just what is community preservation and how does it work other than having a pile of money to give away? The legislation sets forth 3 areas of funding interest. Open space, which is now includes recreation, affordable housing, and historic preservation, with 10% of the available funds needing to be allocated in those 3 buckets, and the balance, the 70%, to be allocated at the direction and recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, which then passes these recommendations along to the town meeting for appropriation. So last year, this committee worked very hard on a very large number of articles, which were dutifully passed along to FinCom and had expected to go on to town meeting. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, those were set aside because of the sort of complications of COVID and concerns about town meeting and health and safety issues. So those are still on the docket. We expect those to sort of be pushed, recommended along to the town meeting, which is going to be taking place in May of this year. But we now have the fiscal year 2022 funds to allocate, and that's part of the purpose of tonight's meeting. So in sum, we could have as much as $400,000 to pass out this year from the next round of community preservation funding, or it could be a bit lower. We tend to be conservative and use a somewhat lower match than what we happily have been seeing from the state. Committee members, I am anxious to have anyone else sort of jump in to clarify or amplify any of the points that I've raised so far.
Lynn, this is Ellen Goldberg, and I want to thank you for doing an excellent job so far. I have nothing to add except for that to tell you that you're right on. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's nice to have good news, isn't it? At least a little bit more.
Lynn, maybe we should clarify that we pass on our recommendations to the FinCom, and they decide whether they endorse them or not. But nevertheless, if they don't endorse them, they still get presented and discussed as our recommendations at town meeting. Historically, we've usually walked arm in arm with the FinCom, but not always. It's quite possible that some recommendation might not get the FinCom blessing and still might be favorably voted at town meeting. The other thing that I think it's important,
I think that's a good point.
Important for people to know is that we have at times carried quite large reserve funds, over $200,000 at one point, as I remember, and that was done strategically because we anticipated, or the previous administration of this committee wisely anticipated that a day might come when special funding was needed. So there's no urgency to spend money just because it's available. It's probably a good idea to consider unknown future needs in our deliberations. And yes, you're doing a wonderful job. So I don't mean to step on your toes.
No, please, please, I'm asking for a dance here, not to step on toes. So, but I think Paul's got two very good points. We actually work closely with FinCom, but ultimately it's the town meeting that makes the appropriations. And usually those of you who study the town warrant will see that FinCom will make their remarks as we present each individual article. As to the general reserve, in some cases, for some years when we haven't had active grant applications in certain categories, and affordable housing came to mind, we had actually accumulated quite a reserve in that account because we're obligated to set aside 10% of the overall funds every year. Last year, I think, Mickey, the Housing Authority came forward with several excellent grant applications. Those right now are on the table pending town meeting vote. But that was an example when that reserve fund was certainly a happy thing to have available as we considered those grant applications. In general, it's nice to have a general reserve. And last year, I think we ended up with over $120,000 in general reserve, even though we had one active bond on the books for the library renovation project, or the library structural project on the terrace, and another pending potential bonding situation related to the East Point eminent domain protection. So that again was not heard. The library bond had been heard the previous years, in a previous year, and those of you who maybe have a chance to go into the library today or go by it will see that they did an excellent job on the terrace reconstruction. But we will be paying that for some years to come out of CPA funds on a diminishing basis every year, of course, just as we've done in the past with major projects on the wharf, as well as 40 steps, stairs, and other things of that nature.
So, Lenny, can I ask a question? All the grants that were approved last year to be recommended to town meeting, and they were approved by both us and FinCom. Are those assumed approved by us and FinCom automatically this year? Or does FinCom or we get to going to reevaluate all of those yet again, in addition to new ones that may come this year?
I think the committee may take that under advisement. We had made our recommendations, we had passed them along for the town warrant through the FinCom review process, but they obviously haven't gone into either the town, they haven't been printed in the town warrant, and we may choose as a committee to revisit some examples. I think it depends, in my mind, it depends in part on the grant activity we see for fiscal year 2022.
So regardless as to what we do, even if we say, listen, all last year's approved grants are going to go in, FinCom can choose to say, I don't care whether we approved them last year. A new committee this year of members is going to choose to reverse or uphold that decision. That's up to them as well, right? Based on your experience.
I will just say, we don't report to FinCom.
No, I know that, but we work
We certainly want to cooperate with FinCom, but we have not been in communication with FinCom, so I can't say what they might be thinking.
Okay, I guess I'm asking based on your experience whether a grant application for housing or the East Point one that you said, it was both approved and by both us and FinCom for recommendation to town meeting. Where it would have gone, who knows? Based on your experience,
So Mickey, there's a comment from
just
somebody
finish.
here.
Yes, could I just finish for a second? Mickey, I will say happily, we've not faced the precedent of not having a town meeting review our grant applications in the way we have. So this is unprecedented. I can't say exactly what would happen in terms of, the comment from the public here. Oh, I see a comment in the chat that is helpful where Michelle Capano reports that at a recent FinCom meeting, the town administrator mentioned that prior year fiscal 2021 CPC projects would be approved and go into the warrant. And I see that's reinforced by Julie Tarmy, who serves on FinCom. So I think that's helpful. Let me see. We have an agenda for tonight in terms of the meeting notice that thanks to, oh, by the way, I also want to just say thanks to Tony Barletta and Kristen Taylor, who with Ellen Goldberg revised the grant application. Kristen worked to get notices out to committee members as well as the Lynn item. And I really want to thank everyone for that effort. And Paul for arranging a whole number of meetings because we have a very active meeting schedule in order to meet the request that I received last Friday or the last week that all articles need to be reviewed and approved and passed on through the FinCom process and be ready and written to go into the town warrant on April 9th.
Oh, wow.
So that is a bit of an oh wow. So yeah, that's why I characterize that as a Nantucket sleigh ride, hold on and let's move. But Paul has posted a number of meetings. They're on Monday, beginning March 5th, March 15th. The grant applications this year are due on March 12th. And it has been posted on the town website. And as I said, distributed to a number of the town committee chairmen, as well as nonprofits in the town, which I notified. So, Ellen, I don't know if you want to make some comments about the grant application and how to make it easy for people to fill out and to respond to questions. You know it very well.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a couple of comments about it. It's a PDF form. It's a fillable form that you can download from the town website. And it is designed as a form to be filled out. You download it, you fill it in, you save it. It should work a little better this year than in prior years, where I understand there were some issues with the lines just continuing to scroll. I think I've taken care of that. So it should be relatively straightforward to fill in and save and email to Kristen. If you want to print it out and provide it to Town Hall on that deadline, then you're more than welcome to, but you can save it as just a PDF and email it to Kristen for your application.
So Ellen, I presume therefore that there's no submit option intrinsic to the PDF application. That you then
there is not. That would be a great idea, which I could do for next year.
Okay, good.
Because it's already up, and I don't want to. I
understand.
Versions of it. It's an excellent idea. That's a great idea, Paul. I'm going to do that next year.
Okay.
So it'll just wrap it up and send it as an email.
Okay, so the simplest way for people to do this, just to reiterate and make sure that I understand it, is you download the form from the town website, then you have it in, it's open in a PDF. Does it have to be open in Adobe, or can it open in any PDF?
Yeah. You're going to have the most success with Adobe.
Okay. All right. And then you can fill it in Then you save it wherever you want to save it, okay?
Mhm.
And then you have to send it as an attachment in an email to Kristen Taylor. Is her
Correct.
email address on the form somewhere?
It is. It is on the
Perfect.
form, and it's a clickable email as well. So you
Perfect.
should be able to reopen it and then attach. You should copy the link to her email. It's on there.
Good. Thank you, Ellen. That was great work.
So for,
You're welcome.
if people can't sort of fill it in the space available, they can have attachment pages, can they not, Ellen?
Yes, they can add attachments. Correct. They could just, if they don't have enough room in the form to provide the level of detail, they can just create a Word doc and attach that with their email as well, unless they want to go through the trouble of attaching a page to a PDF and resaving it, which not everybody wants to do. A Word doc is fine with all of your identifying information so that we make sure that we get the, attachment to the right application.
So that folks can get a sense of the kinds of projects that we have funded. I just to give you some examples, because it might stimulate some ideas or some questions. We've been quite active in the recreation area with funding repairs or refurbishment of, the basketball courts at the Johnson School. Last year, we had a significant appropriation or the year before, we had a significant appropriation for the replacement of the basketball and tennis courts at Flash Road. And I expect that we will be seeing a further application from the town administrator to fund the shortfall that was seen in the between the bids and the project estimate. Now that raises a point that I think, I want to clarify. It was on the community, on the notice that we sent out, but one of the things that we look for are as accurate cost estimates as possible. Now, we understand that the projects haven't been quote designed and put out to bid in a formal sense. That comes after the actual appropriation. But you want to have, as I said, as an informed a scope of work and cost estimate as possible. Because we have administrative funds, and because we've had a concern about this in the past, the committee is willing to make small grants out of our administrative funds available to applicants for help in defining scope and budgets for their projects. So at this point, we're suggesting that you send your request to Kristen Taylor, and she will then pass it along to me, and I'll be able to work with the committee on how that can take place. But I think that should be helpful for, as I said, as an informed cost estimate as possible. Other grants that we've been involved with have been actually a wonderful project conserving the town records for the town of Nahant, going back to the earliest years of the town. And we've also done some work with the Historical Society on funding their town records. So that's an example of something that doesn't seem like a nuts and bolts preservation project, but that kind of conservation is an allowable cost under community preservation. We've helped on work at the wharf over and over again, and we expect that will be something that we will continue to support, again, under the interesting kind of auspices of both open space and recreation. And for the wharf, I would say we could probably also say that that's historic preservation. But I think at this point, I'd like to sort of invite comments or questions from our listeners. And I'm just checking to see if anything has come in on the chat. Okay, nothing so far, but let me ask, anyone out there, you want to chime in with questions or comments or concerns?
Hi, this is Christian Bauda from Nahant Little League. Can I ask a question?
You sure can.
Okay, so we're anticipating writing a grant application this year. I'm just wondering, when do the funds actually flow out? Assume your grant is approved at the town meeting. When are funds actually made available? Thank you.
Well, it depends on the funding source. So if we are funding it from our general reserves, they can be available as soon as the town meeting vote has taken place in mid-March. But otherwise, it would be the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1st.
Okay, so actually it would be quite soon after the town meeting anyway.
Yeah, really, since our town meeting is later than usual, and fingers crossed we have a town meeting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, Christian, there's only 2 grants that we have given that have, in the 80-odd grants that we've given, that have not been executed. And one of them was to the Little League. They withdrew their application some years ago. So by all means, put something in there.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, this is Vi Paddock.
Hi, Vi.
Can you see me, hear me?
Excuse me, I didn't hear that name. Would you repeat it,
Vi
please?
Paddock. Sorry, I'll turn
Oh,
off
hi,
my-
Vi.
Hi,
Yep.
how are you all? So nice to see faces. It really is.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is really an information question. So the DPW, Zach Taylor and SWIM are working on trying to improve the situation with respect to trees in Nahant. And you know, trees really do address flooding and health and all kinds of things. And so I saw, maybe you saw it in the item on January 22nd, that Lynn got this enormous grant, $199,000 from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant Program to install tree box filters and bioswales. And that gave me an idea that this is something we could really use in the hunt. A tree box filter is, instead of putting a tree in the ground with you know, the earth around the tree flush with the ground around it, you countersink it into a sort of a drain box, and the water flows, instead of past the tree, it goes down, waters the tree, but actually acts as a way of getting rid of water. And a bioswale is kind of like a valley that soaks up water instead of having water just rush across hard lawns or down streets or whatever. So it just gave me the idea that maybe since the DPW is strapped for cash, this might be something that could be done. So I asked Zach Taylor, our superintendent of the DPW, if I might have permission to talk to you about this. And he said he's actually built bioswales in the past. And I quote, "There are many areas that would benefit from a bioswale or tree well, he calls them tree wells, and be happy to be part of a discussion on how to use grant funding if it's available." So I don't know if this is something that fits into your scenario. It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge amount of money, but maybe we could get started on a couple of these in town.
Do you have, would these be for town-owned street trees?
Totally town.
Yeah. So, Paul, I don't know if you have the ability or if anyone has the ability to pull this up on the screen, but we have a chart that we go by. Actually, I believe we actually cite the link in our grant application. It's called Community Preservation Fund Allowable Spending Purposes. So when you go into your grant application, click on that link and take a hard look at this. I have enormous respect for the work that SWIM is doing, and Zach Taylor, I know, is really keen to do a lot of really thoughtful work, conservation work in the hunt. So I think we'll have to look at how that works, but I think it's important that it be directed at town-owned trees.
Totally, absolutely.
So,
well, that would be,
As I remember, that was a sticking point with a previous application. I don't remember the real details, Lynn.
yeah, I think that, I think you've got a point.
Yeah, so
Right. Can you remind us of what that previous effort was?
Nancy, can you remember, Nancy Cantelmo, can you remember? We talked about doing the application, but we didn't really fulfill it, did we? Your mic is off, Nancy.
Sorry, I can't give you any information.
Okay, it was back when we were working with Jim, and we filled out an application.
Yeah, I think it was more of a recognition project, and it also involved private property, and I think the trees on
Yeah.
private property.
Yeah, this,
And the hunt has some very significant privately owned trees that we all, are concerned about, but
yeah, this has nothing to do with, this would be more like, it's like Zach has ideas of public places where he could put in these flood stoppers, but he doesn't have the funds. He doesn't have the funds. So I just thought it might be a way to put it together, and he gave me permission to ask this question. So
I
I'm
think it's,
asking the question.
yeah, push along on this and take a look at those guidelines, prepare the application and get it into us.
So
Sounds
it's worth filling out the application?
Yes, that's the answer.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
But
And
make
so-
sure that you look at the chart and you frame your responses in alignment with that allowable spending purposes chart.
Okay, and then the second question is, maybe it would be better to start small. Since we don't really, we don't know what the costs, I mean, I'm sure he can find out what the costs are, but I assume you might be better to do a first year little pilot program for something like this to see how it worked, or go for it.
It depends on what you have in mind. I think you need to think about that.
Okay, thank you.
Other folks out there with questions or comments or ideas for projects? Let's have some ideas for projects. I just came up with a very interesting one. Got something from Little League. What else?
This is Sandy Burton.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Lynn. I'm the president of the New Nahant Land Company. And I'm
Yeah.
going to be submitting an application for a grant to help with a study of the use of the property of the Tudor estate for future planning purposes. Just throwing that out there. I sent a copy into the info email address that was on the prior application.
Okay.
And I never got a response. So I'll try again using your application, even though it's extremely painful to use because it doesn't have enough space to put description of stuff in. I think we can do better.
Ellen, did you feel that?
So I don't know how to add an
I certainly
attachment because
do.
I don't know how to add an attachment if there's the PDF file won't allow an attachment. Do I just add a Word document to the email?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what Ellen was saying.
You could do that. I mean, you could technically, you could probably add a page to your PDF if you have the software for that.
No, I don't have that.
Yeah. So I would say if you could just, you could add a Word document to your email for
Okay.
additional.
It would be nice if you made
information.
the fields expandable to the limits of a person's wishes.
Right. Well, I think I did do that this year. I don't know if you've tried this year's application.
I just tried it
did
and
make
it gets buried. It doesn't, you can't see it.
Okay. Well, maybe you could just tell me what field that is. We could take it offline.
It's the project description.
The project description.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll send you the form as it is, and I will send an application I did using the old form, and I'll let you guys sort it out.
Right. Sandy, I just want to encourage you to proceed with this because we have approved quite a number of studies directed at potentially grantable projects.
Good. Thank you, Paul.
That is a very good use of a relatively small amount of funding, excuse me, anticipating perhaps a larger grant request in the future.
Thank you, Paul.
To do the work.
Yeah.
Will
I think
do.
that's a great point because I think the study that we did on the town hall, Ellingwood Chapel, and the public
Yes.
library led to the public library
Yes, yes.
moving forward. And I suspect we may be hearing from the public library again this year. Um, I'm just looking at the chat for a second to see if I see any other things here.
I have a question. This is Julie Tarmy.
Good.
We had one of our members sent us a letter requesting that we do something about what he thought was an old gas lamp on Mayolis Road. So we let him know that it's not a gas lamp. It's the old water stand pipe that used to feed the water trucks that would water the dirt roads to keep the dust down in the dry times. So he was wondering if we could do a restoration project, preservation project on that standpipe.
That's on Mayolis Road.
It's on Mayolis Road. It's a pipe, it's curved at the top, it's rusted, but it is a historic artifact.
Well, why don't we add the surviving gas light to the equation?
True.
I don't know. Does anyone on the committee sort of rustle this up in their mental landscape of this water pipe, which we probably have walked by or ridden by?
Yeah, I've seen it and I thought it was a remnant of gas lighting.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for straightening me out there, Julie.
You're welcome, Paul. It's towards the Summer Street end.
Yeah.
Right. Not quite to Marginal, I don't think, but Hood, close to Hood Street.
It sounds like something that our friend Zach.
Right.
Too bad Zach isn't here tonight to hear his name mentioned so often. I think you might want to send this along to Zach and see what he might want to do with it, Julie.
I will do that. That was my next step.
Okay. One of the interesting projects from last year that is still on the docket because it didn't get to town meeting, but to me, the plan that was put forth by the Open Space Committee and Zach Taylor was to get started with work at Bailey's Hill with the removal of invasive species and clearing up some debris that had accumulated over there over time and so on and so forth. I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Nancy, but I don't know if Open Space is thinking about doing anything further on that or may have other things that they are contemplating as potential grant applications.
So I thought that application went over 2 years at least. Like one had to do with removal of invasive species, and then the next year was sort of reconstruction and replanting of that area.
Yeah, it actually, because it got cut back, I'm opening this up because the grant application got cut back to about half of the original request. It might be worthwhile revisiting that.
Okay. Thank you.
Because as I see the sort of bittersweet sort of climbing vigorously over there, I think, this is the time to get something going on that.
Right. And if we made a start with that area, maybe we could start moving around town to some of the other areas that could use some help.
Yep, maybe. Mickey, will we be hearing anything from our friends at the Housing Authority, do you think?
I don't think so. I think we've, our cup would be running over if town meeting approved the grants that we proposed last year. Hopefully
Okay.
they go through, and we'd be pretty busy for a few years trying to clean things up and fix up those properties.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let me check the chat again.
I have a question,
Mhm.
Diane.
Yep. Hi, Diane.
Hi. Would wayfinding signs be, would qualify? I'm thinking Memorial Point. It is such a great spot, and we're getting more and more people arriving there to look at the, you know, everything about it. And there's so much history. Something a little bigger than what you have in front of the life-saving station. But not many people know that you can go through the gate and you have a path, you know, the easement pathway up to Lodge Park, which is stunning. And there are so many more people coming now. It's amazing.
Well, I can say that the signs at the life-saving station were funded by community preservation as part of the landscape plan there. So.
Yeah. Because I was thinking also landscaping at Lodge Park, you know, just the fencing and the, you know, we have the wildflowers and that's beautiful, but really the infrastructure of the fencing and so forth is really lacking. So that's another thing I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But that would be a town application, right? Because the
It
town,
would be that, yep, because the town actually owns that portion of East Point.
There was a pretty elaborate plan for the landscaping of Lodge Park that I had reviewed when I was thinking about that area, and an article about Calantha. It had a pretty, like, there was a lot of landscaping that went into it that just never moved forward. And it might be interesting to review that if we're thinking about going forward, to look at the original plans that had been proposed.
There is an official management plan that was created back in 2000, whatever. Very detailed requirements on how to manage Lodge Park. And also true for Bailey's Hill.
was that part of an open space plan, or was that a master plan?
It's a master plan type of document. I have copies. The town hall has copies, but you have to observe the management plan, because that's really, you know, pretty much cast in stone. And they're good. These are good plans, carefully thought out.
So so when were they prepared?
I think 2008 or 2005. I have a copy of the East Point Lodge Park management plan, which is detailed, supposed to be maintained as a meadow, no trees.
So was this part of the Heritage Landscape Program?
No, way before that. And then there's the management plan for Bailey's Hill is, I don't know, it's huge, really detailed. Zach Taylor knows all about that, and he would like to execute it because he feels it's just the land is wasted.
So it would be good as part of these grant applications to include the links that you're referring to, because this is, for instance, with Bailey's Hill, is pretty news to me.
Oh yeah, it's a big plan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the link for that. If not, it's certainly in town. It's a really detailed plan. I mean, it's pages and pages and pages.
But who prepared it?
Can't remember. I mean, I wasn't here. I didn't live here then.
Right, but you have the report. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. So, I mean, to the point that Sandy was raising about your grant application doesn't allow us to include these things, but you are welcome to include attachments or links.
Right.
That the committee can look at things, because yes, we do look at things in hard copy, but everybody is also seeing this electronically.
Right. I'll find the links and send them to you, Lynn. For those.
That's very interesting. Well, thanks for bringing that up, both Vi and Nancy. Yeah. So I'm seeing wayfinding signs and ideas for Lodge Park on the list. It's an interesting list so far. So trees and tree planting and protection, Little League, work at the Little League, New Nahant Land Company, which actually combines open space as well as historic preservation in its categories. The Mayolas Road water pipe, Julie, you'll have to expand on that. You have to include every other, antiquated but interesting lighting or watering device in Nahant. Don't leave that out in the cold. I'm thinking about the gas lab at the Titus property. There might be more.
Well, I know there's a gas lamp also that's down on Wharf Street that actually used to be on 40 Steps Lane because it was at the end of my driveway in the 50s. And my father used it to barter for something we needed in service.
Okay. Well, does everyone realize that there was a gentleman who went around town lighting the gas lights every evening and then turning them off in the morning?
Mr. Killalay.
Yep, exactly. And then, these are a collection of interesting ideas. Do we have any other ones for tonight? Well, don't worry, you'll have time because the grant applications are due March 12th. But the committee has scheduled a meeting on, I believe it's February 22nd, Paul.
I have that in front of me, sorry.
And that is an informational meeting. So we're going to have a midpoint where you can come in with your applications and further questions once you've had a chance to sort of flesh them out. And that's February 22nd at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
So if we don't have any further questions from or comments from the.
I have one more. I just sent the link for the open space management, open space plan of 2008.
Okay, great.
In the chat. And that includes both the management plans for East Point and for Bailey's Hill.
Oh, okay. That's from the open space management plan.
Yeah, so those have their specific plans for those two areas.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. That's very good. And I know that the open space planning group is also working to update the master plan. Is it not, Nancy?
So this is a little different. I was on the open space and recreation master plan, 18 months of work. And that was quite different from this one. It's an update of this one, but the one that we worked on in 16 and 17 did not create management plans for locations as this 2008 plan did.
Yes, I understand that. The 2008 is from the master plan. You worked on the
Correct.
recreation.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Which we
This is from
funded.
the Nahant Open Space Management and Land Acquisition Committee, this document that I just sent the link for.
Okay, great, thank you. And Nancy is now involved with Paula Devereaux and her group updating the 2008 master plan.
Correct.
Yeah. So
May I make one comment? May I make one comment, please?
sure.
This is Barbara Beatty from the FinCom. And hi. And I want to thank you all. This is the first time I've listened in, and I want to thank you all for what you're doing for the town. Having seen it over the years, it's much appreciated. And I know how much hard work, and now I know even more how much hard work. So thank you. So here's my one comment. I haven't looked at the application, and I will. But is there on it anything, a side note, something to the effect that when there are projects submitted, it would be, I think, and this is something you'll probably have to discuss as a potential policy matter, to have some reference if it make sense to differently abled ADA kinds of things, because I know the work that was done at the library, wonderful ADA work there. And there may be with other, that people should just have it in mind. When they submit. Is there something like that on the application?
It's not specifically on the application. It gives, it goes through the guidelines and so on. But what we are aware of, very aware of, is the Architectural Access Board regulations for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And last year we were going to give a major gift to Town Hall for architectural, well, ADA, you call it ADA upgrades. So if you're doing a building project, there are certain triggers by the building code which include ADA, which automatically kick things into accessibility.
I was just thinking more broadly that just to have people thinking a little more broadly about accessibility, ADA, for instance, even with signs, that there be ways in which we just add that as a perspective.
I think you've raised an interesting point. So let us put it on our list of things to do as we look at the
Right.
next year's application,
Yep.
Barbara.
Thank you very much.
And we hope that you will be an active participant, both through FinCom and as a citizen in this whole process. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words.
Can I just say that as Open Space is working on their next update, we are now working with state officials who who know exactly about all the ADA rules, some of which are not are hard to find and not exactly written in the most up-to-date applications. But that as we work with these people, they will be helping us in Nahant to look at all of the open space and recreation to get it up to what they feel is their latest policies.
Which has got some challenges, I would say, with open
Right.
space. Yeah, with slopes. Okay. We can keep the dialogue going. I'd like to bring up one other thing, though, as a matter of business for the committee that I had mentioned in a previous email. All of you are aware that the Community Preservation Coalition, and actually the public at large, is encouraged to go to the Community Preservation Coalition website, where they will find an enormous amount of information about the benefits and programs of community preservation statewide. Every one of every year I've been filing all of our approved warrant items, and that goes into a database that is vast. So you'll have lots of ideas for projects by cities and towns all across the state. But there's a price for this, and the price is a membership in the coalition. And every year we've been faithfully voting the dues, which is $875. You might remember that our administrative funds have the capability for not only helping print the town warrant and help with the support that we get at town hall for copying and so on, but the dues would certainly be part of that. So I sent this around to the group as part of the announcement for this meeting. Could we entertain a motion?
I'll move that we pay the $875 dues.
Okay, can I have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Can we have discussion about it?
Strongly in favor.
Well, in that case, can I just do a roll call vote? And I'll start with Austin Antrim.
You're on mute.
Muted.
Austin Antrim, aye, in favor.
I'll just go counterclockwise. Paul Spurn,
Yes.
Ellen Goldberg,
Yes, I approve. Yes.
Nancy Catamo,
Yes, approve.
Mariana,
Yes.
Nikki Long,
Yes.
and Ellen Steves. I see you down there
Yes.
on phone. Good. I'm so glad you were able to join us, Ellen.
Still
know
don't
you
have a computer.
I know you have trouble with Zoom, but it's good to hear your voice.
Sounds like you're doing a good job.
Well, we try, don't we?
Yes, we
try.
do.
We all try. All right, let me see if there's anything else that I have in the chat to. So I don't see anything else that's new. I'll just double check, make sure I've got it from everyone.
Then I sent around a copy of the minutes of the last meeting,
Oh,
and
gosh.
I'd love to get those approved.
So
Good
you want
point.
to approve them all at once or just that
No,
one?
I'd like to approve them one at a time, so I do them in a very timely fashion.
Okay. I'll move that the last meeting be approved.
That would have been the January 13th meeting.
Correct.
Do I have a second on that?
Second,
Any discussion? If I actually, can I ask for a voice? Well, I can't. I have to go person by person. Darn. Okay, Austin Antrim.
I was not at that meeting. I'll abstain from
Okay,
voting on
thank
those
you.
minutes.
Very, very smart. Paul,
Approve.
Alan Goldberg,
I approve.
Nancy Catalmo.
I don't think I can vote.
Nope, Nancy wasn't there.
Nancy wasn't there. Okay, Mariana,
Yes.
Nikki Long,
Yes.
Ellen Steves.
I don't know if I was there on voice or not. I don't remember now.
Okay.
But I would approve it nonetheless.
Okay, I was, and I do approve it. So I think that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for doing that. So given the fact that we see the note that Tony has communicated with FinCom that last year the warrant articles that we had approved and put together would be moving forward, I will resend to the committee the insert that I did, the now 15-page insert that goes into the town warrant, as well as the appropriations that would be listed as the warrant articles, just so you can have some light reading.
Yahoo.
Really light reading.
You.
Okay.
I remember that document.
I know you do. It's an eye-crossing exercise. So, which included you might remember we were trying to retrieve about $18,000 in unused funds in a whole series of small articles. So, all right. Well, unless there's any further business, I think we would have a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Wave your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Lynn.
Very good to see you all, and thank you so much for your participation.
I hope we can see each other for real someday.
I do
Yeah,
too.
someday.
I miss that.
Yeah, really.
Miss that.
Good job.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye,
Good night, everybody.
Thanks all. Bye.
Night.